Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Divine Awakenings. And this is episode 19. And I've got a beautiful soul sister who has said yes to coming on my podcast and sharing her divine awakening journey and how she's really stepping into her purpose. And it's such a pleasure to have you on, Sarah. Thank you for saying yes for coming on my channel.
Thank you.
And yeah, it's I just get these nudges of like in those who I know and have come into contact with, and we were connecting. I have these like intuitive pulls that goes, she'll be great on my podcast, she'll be a great addition. And so I follow that, and it's such a joy, and it brings me it really humbles me as well, because this is me getting out the way to allow others to come on in their expert field and to share what's close on their heart, their wisdom, and just their journey. Because this, you can call it a spiritual journey, but it's a journey of self-actualization, becoming to know who we truly are. And that is all in alignment with our soul. And how we do that is then stepping into our purpose, our soul path. And so you're one that's doing that along your journey. And I'm sure there has been some challenges along the way, as a mum of three boys. And so, yeah, the first thing I would like to open this conversation with is, because it's something that's really quite prevalent in my life right now, and contemplating this question is, what is your relationship to that which we call the divine, God, creator? And I ask you this question because of your background as a birth and death doula, so an end of life doula. And so you kind of got a kind of broad spectrum from like both ends. And so it'd be really interesting to hear your perspective on that. And obviously you are a holistic practitioner as well and have other modalities, but that's predominantly what you're focusing on now, as well as your artwork, which has got soul signatures embedded in that, which we will speak about later. So yeah, and how does that connection and relationship to that which we call the divine or God play out in your life?
So it's kind of hard to describe sometimes, because if it's just kind of part of who we are, and we kind of assume everyone has the same sort of understanding. But then as you kind of get older, you realize, oh, actually no, people don't have that kind of guiding force. So for me, it's just the connection between everything. There, we all know everything is connected, and there is no separation. And I think you can just really see the divine in how those connections are made, and how you're kind of led along the path. And even if you feel like you're lost, you kind of always know that you're not, because you've got this higher kind of connection, this higher kind of pull in. So it's just kind of like a light, just like this, like a lighthouse type thing that is always there, will always guide you. And when you kind of get a bit bogged down with earth and life and stuff, it's just always kind of just shine like the sun, literally. You can feel its warmth, and you can feel the safety. And sometimes it's stronger, and sometimes it's less, but it's always there, and it's always just like this kind of secure companion, kind of, that has got your back, and that it's part of you. So it's never, even if at times you can't feel it, it's not gone away. You just know that for whatever reason you can't feel it at the moment. So it is just kind of like this, yeah, this warmth, kind of like hope, like when you feel things are really bad, and you can't feel that kind of connection, or that or you feel that the divine's not there, but you know that it is, and it helps you to, yeah, fulfill, I don't know if those, maybe fulfill's not the right word, but it just helps lead you along the path. And I just, yeah, can feel its presence, and just trust that, yeah, that I am guided even when I can't feel it sometimes.
Yeah, beautiful. And I love like what you said about the lighthouse. Like as you were speaking about that lighthouse, and it's like it's there. It's kind of like reminding you that the light is there. There's light within you. that light is supporting you. It's in and outside of you as well. And
Yeah.
it's trusting that even when you can't feel it, because when
Yeah.
we're in the 3D, you can call it, or just in the depths of life, of
Yeah.
challenges, adversities, like it's just knowing, it's a knowing, isn't it? And trusting that you are supported and
Yeah.
having that realization. So I love that. It's just beautiful. And so one of the things I wanted to ask you was, how did you come to the realization that we're not separate? What was that journey like for you?
So my journey is a bit different, I think, to lots of people, in that I didn't kind of have like an awakening type situation. I had like the opposite, where I was born really aware and really psychic, and had lots of experiences and things happening as a child. But that actually made me really isolated, because no one knew what I was talking about. No one was experiencing the same as me. And so it felt like a quite a burden and quite a difficult um, way to live life. And so then I had to kind of learn to be more human with it, and that actually be able to incorporate it in a human, like everyday way, which I found really challenging. Um, yeah, so it's kind of like I always had that connection, and that bit was fine. I had no doubt about that. It was the, how do I effectively live as a human with that understanding? That was a kind of challenge I had.
Yeah, and as a child, like what kind of experiences did you have? Because obviously being born already aware, like the veil was already lifted, you
Yeah.
know. What was that experience like?
So it would express itself in lots of ways, like just the experiences I would have. Like, so my first like memory was thinking I was going to die. I fell down a cliff and I was like, oh, I'm going to die alone. I was like 4 or something. And again, that's not the average kind of, earliest memory, thinking that you're going to die. And I'd have all these, like at night time, like, something would wake me up. This what I'm going to talk about happened like all the time. And it would be as if something was like coming in me and kind of pushing me out of my body. And so there'd be this kind of tugging and pulling of this other energy kind of coming into me. And it would kind of, it's not like sleep paralysis, because I wasn't really, it doesn't fit the description of sleep paralysis kind of thing. I wasn't paralyzed, and it was just, yeah, I don't know, this battle of something coming in me. And then it would quite often change my eyesight, so it would change my vision. um, and the best way I can describe it would be to say it was pixelated, but it wasn't really pixelated, but that's kind of the nearest description I can give. And then I'd tell my parents, oh, this thing happened last night. And they'd be like, oh, you had a bad dream. I was like, well, I was awake and it wasn't a bad dream. It happens nearly every night, the same thing. But they didn't know what I was talking about. My sisters weren't having the same experience. So again, it would kind of get dismissed. And so then I'd be like, oh, like what so I had this feeling of, being very different, because all the experiences I had were very different. I remember like when I went to town by myself as a child, about 9, I saw someone die on a motorbike crash. And I went back home to my parents. I said, oh, I just saw someone die. And they were like, no, you didn't. I was like, no, I did. And I knew he'd died. And I could see all these people trying to resuscitate him and like working around him. And I knew it was pointless. I was like, why are they all making a big fuss? Because I knew he died. But everyone just found it really difficult to like, I don't know, just for me to be saying these things, like it's not a normal thing, a child to come home and say, I just saw someone die. And, and so it was very, it was challenging. Yeah.
So how did you kind of navigate your experiences, like with the family dynamic? Did it kind of like, is that the point where you started to like shut down your gifts, or shut down like, your expression of what you were seeing?
I couldn't. I mean, I think it shuts down naturally when you get to a teenager kind of a bit anyway. Like these, and as a child, I wouldn't speak. I was like, it was like, oh, you're just being too sensitive. Stop being so sensitive, Sarah, and all that kind of stuff. Um, it just kind of, as I got to a teenager, I just like needed to leave the family. So like when I was 16, I kind of left home and went abroad and probably did lots of, well, it was really risky things that I probably shouldn't have done, but I didn't fit in. I knew I didn't fit into the family because they and I'm sure they tried their best, but they didn't know what on earth I was talking about. Like no one did. And I didn't know what was going on either. It's not like now where there's the internet stuff, no one was talking about these experiences or no one knew what I was talking about. Um, and so, yeah, I kind of went off and tried to discover myself. And it took a really long time to kind of trust that what I was seeing and was accurate for me. And now, I know I trust my intuition totally because I've had years and years now, decades of being proven right, of having the thoughts and then it coming true. So now I trust it. But as a child, you don't know because your version of reality is different to everyone else's, and so you think that you're the one that's wrong. There's like, oh, there's something wrong with me. So yeah, I found it really difficult, yeah, to fit into society because I was just having such a different experience to most people.
And on your kind of journey to like self-discovery, shall we say, like what are the kind of things that stand out on that journey that really like was an awakening experience? Even though you was already awake, it was just kind of like a, okay, that makes sense what I've experienced as a child, or okay, this makes sense, and it may have like trusted or helped to build on your intuition.
I think I can't really think of any because there'd just be so many events like things would be attracted to me, like or dramatic events would happen around me, and I would be able to kind of be okay with it, whereas other people would be falling apart. Like someone died in the back of a truck in Thailand. There's be like a dead body again in the beach in Asia, and everyone else was crazy, and I'd be the one that was kind of like calm, and so I kind of knew that I could cope with challenging situations where other people found it really difficult. And I think lots of experiences like that kind of led me to discover it's like, okay, so I do have a skill here that even though these bad things are happening, I seem to be able to cope with it and I can manage it because of this different perspective that I've got from other people. So then I started to be like, oh, actually, this is actually a gift now because I can actually be a support in these situations where everyone else is like, ah. So I guess over time that kind of happened, and yeah, I realized that actually I can face those difficult situations because I can see the different perspective, and that obviously helped me now with like the birth and death work because I have a different viewpoint, I guess, from other people. So yeah, it just helps me in that work.
Yeah, and it's great that you said and you could see these this is a gift, because I do believe that we are given gifts from our creator God to help us in life. And I know that you've got three boys that are the autistic, and so
Yeah,
do you think that's also a part of it to help you be the calm in the storm, really dealing with those challenges even in
yeah,
home life and outside life?
yeah, because they were they were really hard as young children. They weren't just autistic. One of them had had a hole in his mouth when he was born, and I had to like pin him down like that firstborn baby. You have to pin him down and put a tube down his nose to be able to feed him, hoping you didn't accidentally get it in his lungs and kill him. And I'd have to do that daily, like on my own, like with your first baby. And it's like that's not a normal experience for a new, for first time mum. It should be all lovely and nice. And it's like, why have I got this for ages? I'd be like, why do I have these bad experiences happen? You know, why do all these extreme things happen? Because everyone else would just have a nice baby and they'd go to sleep, and I've got one I'm having to literally like pin down and force tubes down and hold syringes and test stomach acid to make sure, and like, and it just happened time and time again. Like, one of them cut his brother's finger off, and it was just like loads. Honestly, there's so many stories I can tell you that, like, that were just extreme. And at the time it was awful. It was really hard, and I was like, why does this, you know, am I some sort of bad person? Like, why other people just get normal children? Or, and then I, you know, and then they found out they were autistic, and then the challenges, they wouldn't eat, they wouldn't do this, they couldn't go to parties, couldn't go to restaurants, couldn't do anything. And it's just like, why can't I just have like a normal life like everyone else? It felt really, you know, not nice for quite a long time, because there just seemed to be constant extra challenges on top of everyone, on top of normal life. But again, so now that they're obviously older, I do feel that it's given me so much strength and so much resilience, and that, you know, makes me be able to do my job again, you know,
Yeah, of course.
calmly. And
Yeah, and that, you know, that it can't be easy. And these are the valid questions, you know, why we could get to say, why have I been forsaken? You know, we kind of say these like kind of things, and having the perspective that kind of you have, where you're able to see this as a gift, is it's so like, it's so amazing to have that, because it's very easy, and I'm sure we all do this, especially in the early days of our awakening, drop into victim consciousness, and we don't understand it. And so getting to a point where we can actually see these challenges as a gift because of the strength it's given you, and being
yeah,
able to help other people in your you know, your soul path now.
yeah.
And so what led you to being, obviously, did you get trained as a birth doula first or end of life doula? Which one came first?
End of life doula, yeah. Because so I'd always been able to do mediumship, you know, and talk to spirits after they died. And then when my oldest son, when he was a baby, again, like I say, it was really intense, and so I needed to get out of the house, so I started doing volunteering. So I started volunteering at Samaritans, um, and then so I was obviously talking to people as they were, you know, in the process of committing suicide, and, you know, talking about that. And then so I was talking to the souls afterwards, I was talking to people beforehand. And then I just heard this article one day about like end of life doulas. And I'm like, well, that's like the middle bit, you know, that's, I need to be doing that as well. So then, you know, I heard about that and then trained as the end of life doula. And it was, yeah, it was amazing because, yeah, because like I say, I was talking to people before and then during and then after. So it made sense.
Mm. And obviously for you, you'd already had this other awareness of life after death, you know, it wasn't like you were going to experience that as you were doing the end of life doula work and having mystical experiences.
Mm.
Or did you have mystical experiences or things that were just a bit like, oh, wow, this is interesting, when people were transitioning, or, you know, maybe as a medium, you probably, it's just probably the norm for you though, right?
Yeah. And I think that's being able to talk to someone who's obviously in fear or scared, or they don't, you know, they don't know what's going to happen when they die, or just having someone who is sure in their beliefs. And I don't necessarily have a set belief, because I do believe that I don't believe that death is like one thing. And I think people can kind of, you know, experience consciousness after they've left the body in different kind of ways. But just having someone, I think, that's has that belief obviously supports them. And yeah, there's been loads of, yeah, interesting experiences of me knowing that even that they are going to die, that they're not going to die, being able to give them like a map of where they're going to go, so then they have some sort of understanding of where they're going to go as well. Because if people have no religious belief, they were like, oh my God, what's going to happen? But if you can give them some sort of path or some sort of, route or map, and you can do like, guided meditation type thing, and or help them to understand for themselves where they're going to go, it just, yeah, eases their anxiety, and it makes it easier. The transition makes it easier for them.
Mm. And I suppose it's more for the family, isn't it? That just want that. I mean, that you might have some families that just don't believe in anything, but I suppose, do you bring that other perspective to say there is a life after death, or do you kind of
Mm.
see it depending on where they're at in their, yeah,
Yeah.
where they're at
They
kind
all
of thing?
they all kind of know that I'm, very holistic, and I've got sort of spiritual beliefs, but I don't bring that to all my end of life work, because yeah, some families aren't really open for it. But I still think just the fact that they know that I know is enough to give them that extra support, that I have 100% faith and trust that it's going to be okay. That and I can see whether someone has left their body or not, or whether they maybe, need some support to fully, let go, or it just, yeah, I think they just are able to rely on me, and that gives them, yeah, peace of mind. Whether what doesn't matter what they believe, it just gives them peace of mind as well.
Yeah, definitely. And how did that then lead to you getting trained as a birth doula? Obviously, two ends of the spectrum.
So I always thought that, like, there was millions of birth doulas. I thought, oh, I won't do that, because there's hundreds of them, and I was quite surprised when I started, because I'd always wanted to do birth doula as well, because I'd always wanted to be a midwife, but I didn't really want to work in the NHS, and it's always going to be there. But I thought, oh, I won't bother training as that, because there's loads of people doing that. Um, but then actually, when I kind of got more interested into it, I realized actually there's not that many people, and and so my kind of main belief in doing both these roles is that if we can support people to die, without anxiety, without trauma, and then and they can go through the grieving process more naturally, that will have a ripple effect, for their children, for the family, and everyone else. And the same with birth. If I can support women to give birth without having trauma, without, so they actually feel heard, so they feel like they were in control, they were in their power, that's setting up the whole family and the next generation. So I feel I'm doing real spiritual work, even though it's really practical work, by just doing these birth and death, because if you can get those two things in society right, I think the rest of it can kind of take care of itself pretty much. If people are not traumatized, and then bonding will happen easier, breastfeeding will happen, everything will just happen easier if you can get those two bits right. So that's kind of what I want to focus on.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, if there's people out there that are kind of interested in this field of, either end of life doula, or a birth doula, which what's your how I mean, obviously there's similarities, but in terms of like comparing, I mean, obviously we shouldn't really compare anyway, I suppose, because they're very different. Like, what is the two, what are they, obviously apart from ones at the other end, like energetically, is there a huge difference, like, or does it feel quite like similar, because it's still, you're birthing on the other end, aren't you,
Yeah.
and
No, it feels really similar to me. Like at both times, it kind of feels like there is a connection with the divine, like that, time kind of stands still. There's this kind of moment at birth and at death where, yeah, you're more connected to the divine. There's this kind of euphoria, and I felt it, at death as well. Because quite often people, when they're dying, they'll have, I mean, it can just be a few hours, it can be a few days, where they're just, you can see the change in them. They might be scared, they might have pain, but then there'd be this moment where they just kind of let go, and you can feel the love. They are filled with love. They talk about love. They say they love everybody. It's, you can literally feel the change in the energy, and nurses and everyone else around can feel it too. And you know, obviously it's the same with a baby. There's this moment where everyone can feel the love that's come in, and so it is really, really similar.
Mm,
Yeah, it's. I mean, obviously, at death, it's difficult because people have, especially if it's, you know, someone they love, they've got the emotions, and that can they can't see that, but there is that divine connection, and there is this love that fills the room, and it can be a really beautiful thing to experience. And you know, I feel so honored to be able to experience both ends. It's a
mm,
magical time and a sacred time, and
mm.
yeah, I just think it's amazing.
And so when you're obviously with those that are, you know, transitioning to the other side, and you can kind of see, and like you say, it can take days or even like hours. And when they're obviously towards the end, they can't really get much like their language or what their words aren't making much sense,
Mm.
right? But do they ever say, is there a theme of regrets that they may have, or they say it's like, you know, oh, I wish I forgave my son, or I wish I did this thing that I wanted to do. Do you ever hear that, or are you not present for that?
I do hear that, but I wouldn't say at death. That
Okay.
might happen like a few months beforehand,
Mm,
or you know, a little bit before, but actually like in the last, you know, few days or hours, I don't. Yeah, I have never heard that. I've only had, I mean, again, it's difficult because sometimes people are medicated, and so that kind of suppresses things and changes the situation. But fortunately, lots of people I work with, they want to do it the natural way, and that's why they've hired like a non-medical support person, like a doula, to assist them to have, you know, natural process of birth or death. Um, but if people are medicated, then that can bring in more fear because of just some of the side effects of the medicine, and they're not quite, they, you know, it just numbs things down, so they don't get the whole experience of feeling the divine coming on, or you know, being able to let go. And that can, you can definitely see a difference if someone's medicated, that they're more fearful than people who aren't. And that's the same as birth, you know. Yeah.
absolutely. And so when you said non-medicated, so what is the process then? How does that work? Because I'm curious, because I've I'm a trained birth doula, I'm postnatal, but not end of life. And so although I don't really practice that anymore, but I'm interested in it. So what is the
Mm.
actual process then? Because you say non-medicated, you said that.
So if someone dies in the hospital, they will probably, you know, give them lots of drugs to suppress the natural process of the body shutting down. Like, because you obviously hear about the death rattle, you know, when people's breathing changes and it can sound really kind of rattling, like they're gasping for breath. Or there's like this terminal agitation where people get like really agitated right near the end. And so they will, you know, so they will give someone some medicine to suppress that. But if you're looking at it from a holistic viewpoint, that's like a natural withdrawal of elements. So there's with end of life and with birth, there's you can see where someone is by the withdrawal of elements. So to start with, the earth element will retreat, go back. So that's someone's physical strength, you know, their body will shrink. And this can take like 5 years before they die. You know, they get weaker, they get smaller, they might break some bones. They're physical. The earth element, you know, that starts to subside. Then as they get nearer the end, then the water element will kind of go out of balance and stuff. So they might have loads of I can't say UTIs. They might become weepy. You know, they might have wounds that, you know, leak and stuff. And so the water kind of comes in balance. And then again, nearer the end, then the fire element becomes unbalanced. And this is what I believe is like terminal agitation. They say we don't know why people get agitated. It's just this thing that happens near the end. But in Chinese medicine, it's the fire element, and it's kind of burning away, you know, and you can feel it. You can literally feel heat coming off someone, and it's burning away, and they'll burn through loads of emotions, and they will burn through like letting go of the energetic, yeah, connections to their physical body. They are literally, you know, like what fire does. It like releases it, you know, it transforms. And then the last element to go is like the air element. So obviously that's someone's last breath, and and being able to hear, it's in the air. And so you can watch these elements withdraw, and it's the same with birth, but in reverse, the earth element will start to grow. They get physically bigger. They start from one cell and they get bigger. And then there's the waters, obviously in the womb, the amniotic fluid, and then there's the fire, and women get agitated, and it's when you're in labor, it can feel really intense, and there's like the ring of fire when and then obviously the first breath, the air element, is the last thing to happen with birth. So you can see these elements coming and going, and if it's naturally done, you can track those really easily, and there's lots of holistic support that you can give someone, energetic support, homeopathic remedies, acupuncture, essential oils. There's lots of, natural remedies you can help to support people in these stages. But if they're in hospital, or if they are medicated, then it disrupts this kind of natural process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. It takes things out. Does it take things out of balance, would you say? And then
Well, it suppresses lots of things, and it kind of, from my experience, it kind of prolongs the process,
mm,
which, some people are like, oh, it's okay because they live longer. They might live an extra week, but if they're not conscious and they're not really processing or letting go of things in the natural way they should do, it's not, So it's kind of difficult, because obviously people don't want people to die. It's awful, it
mm,
breaks your heart. But then prolonging it with medicine, maybe, is not ideal either. So, and then it obviously you've got the battle with the medical system, because the doctors will suggest some things and the family will, are not empowered to know the difference, and they just go along with what the doctors say. And so it can
mm.
get a bit, muddled up sometimes.
Yeah, of course. And what's your view on basically with like we all have like an end date, like we've agreed on a soul level that this is when we're gonna like transition to the next phase of our journey. Is that something that you intuitively feel like, okay, the soul's ready to move on, it's the next chapter, it's not as, yeah.
I don't really. I do believe that we're meant to die when, when we're going to die. It's no mistake. But but with death, it's kind of tricky. Like, there can be times when everyone thinks someone's going to die. Their body is, failing. All the organs are stopping, and then it can just kind of not happen. And
Mm,
like, that can go on for years sometimes. And people, you can think they're going to die like numerous times, and it just doesn't. And you can track, because I can track someone's energy. Like, I can like feel if their energy is leaving their body, but then it can come back again sometimes. And I'm like, how does like that happen? Like, it's very interesting. To be able to, because I use like a dowser quite a lot, and I use my hands to feel the energy. Um, and sometimes, yeah, like all the organs, they're saying they're going to die, but you can still feel this quite a strong energy. So it's like, well, am I picking it up wrong? Because I feel that their energy is still here, but everyone, all the, doctors and everyone are saying they're dying. And then, so it's just interesting to track, and everyone's different. I don't really believe that energy leaves in one way. Like,
mm,
some religions believe, oh, the energy will retreat in a certain way, and or leave through the head or the feet or the heart or whatever. I don't believe that, because I've seen, from my experience, it's different for different people, and
mm.
there's just not one way to do it. There's the different ways.
Yeah, and I suppose maybe like if the soul knows when the time is to fully leave the body, then it'll may prolong it, because if it's got that agreement, maybe I mean I don't know, but so what's your view then? Obviously, as a medium, as obviously end of life doula, and obviously a psychic as well. What is your view then and perspective with like? Do you have? Sorry, let me rephrase that. Do you have any fear of death? That's the question I want to ask. Knowing
I
what you
don't.
know.
I don't have any fear of death. I think, I mean, because I've had like, like near-death experience and out-of-body kind of experiences myself quite a lot through my life. And all when I come back, I'm like, whoa, that was like, oh my God, like I was dead. And it's scary when you come back. But when you're in the experience, it just feels like expansion. There's no fear. And all the people I've assisted, I've never felt, as I leave in, I don't feel fear for I can connect, and there's no fear. It just feels like this, yeah, it's just expansion and this like relief. And I think it's, being on earth is a difficult bit. But I think for me as well, I have had trouble being on earth. Like that's like I say, from when I was a child, it was the earth bit that was the difficult bit. It was the spiritual bit, and that bit I 100% kind of am okay with. And so I definitely believe our consciousness, goes, but I think it's being on earth that's the challenge.
Yeah, I definitely agree because,
Yeah.
when we go to the other side, we're going home, really. Like, this is not our true home. This is what I
Yeah.
believe. It's our temporary home. And I've been watching a lot of like near-death experiences and how everybody, when they do go to the other side and nearly die, they're like, oh, they feel so much euphoria, so much love, and they
Yeah.
don't want to come back. And it's like, they feel like so expansive, and then they're being put into this small container
I
when they've got
know.
such a big kind of like soul. And it can be challenging, especially for those who star seeds, light workers, those that are just awake, and
Yeah.
so how do you navigate your day-to-day challenges then, with obviously being obviously a light worker or star seed, being awake, it is challenging, it's not all, I don't believe it's all rainbows and unicorns, in the spiritual community. It's
Yeah.
all love and light. Yeah, there are moments of that, and there's so many miracles and magic that's around.
Mm.
But it really can be challenging when you go to the depths of like, your shadow and the darkness and all of that. And yeah, we do
Mm.
emerge like the phoenix, but we have to go to the depths. We can't bypass. And
Mm.
I don't know how I'm going to feel from one day to the next, especially with the energies at the moment. So how do you navigate that, and what practices do you have that help you?
So I just always try to remember about, that this is a planet of duality. Like there's always a duality, and we could be going through a low moment and then it could be high. So I always just try and know that's going on, and I don't take things too seriously here. It's like, because I know things can change in an instant, and I just it's kind of like you're playing a game on earth, and the more you can kind of see it as, and the more you realize how sort of powerful you are and how much in control you are, then you can kind of have fun and play with your energy rather than having the external forces guide you, or we're under attack obviously with chemtrails and everything. Our whole society is you know screwed, but I try to just I just try to do things that make me feel happy. Like, and I
Mm,
don't, and I know, like, I mean, this wasn't the case for years because I felt so different to everyone else, and I felt really isolated and that no one understood me. And like I say, why did I have all these difficult challenges? And, but now I 100% know that what I've picked up for me is completely right, and I am 100% sure in my intuition and my gut feelings and all that. And I just try to do what makes me feel happy. I I do art. I like helping people. I don't I think as well, I got a bit like jaded with the spiritual community because it seems to be so many rules, like, oh, you have to meditate this, you have to eat this, you can't eat that, you can't do this. And it was just like, whoa, it's like so many kind of judgments about what you should or shouldn't do. And I'm just like, no, I'm just going to do what makes me feel happy. And sometimes I'll make stupid decisions and do things that, are not ideal, but like, I, I don't know, I just don't take things too seriously. And I try to, obviously, going to nature can help restore your energy. And I am conscious of my energy, but I'm not fearful of it. I know lots of people are like, oh, I need to put protection around, I need to do this. And and I'm just like, I'm just going to let whatever happen. And I know that I can look after myself and trust myself. And yeah, so I don't really have any. I go through phases of practices, but the main thing is art. I release a lot of my energy, and I feel grounded, and I feel connected when I'm creating something, when I'm making something. So that would be my main practice. I don't like at the moment. I don't like meditating. I find it too still, and I know that's probably the point. But it's like I'd rather paint something. I've got quite high energy, and so I want to use that. I don't feel that I need to suppress it. So yeah, so I don't follow the rules really. I just make them up that feel good for me.
And I think you said it's key. Do what makes you feel happy. Like
Yeah,
follow the joy, follow the energy. And if meditating isn't for you, then follow what is. And that is art for you. And
yeah,
that is your meditation. And you're right, like there can be so many rules in the spiritual community and judgments and I see that and I definitely see that for sure. And so it's just doing what makes you feel good. Like I predominantly follow a really clean predominantly raw vegan diet. I love fasting. That isn't for everybody. And just
yeah,
because
yeah,
somebody does something differently to me, it's no different. It's just what's right for me. Not everybody
yeah,
can eat like I can or do juicing, and that's okay.
yeah,
It's like we're all different. We all came
yeah,
different for all different experiences, and I'm no artist. I can draw like a stick man. Do you know what I mean? And so,
mm,
your art. So let's talk about your art because I know that you do sell your artwork as well, and so that is your way of channeling energy, and you do soul signature paintings. Is that right?
yeah. So yeah, so I do these things called soul signature pictures, which is like a geometric artwork based on the energies that I pick up from when I look at someone's photo. So someone will send me a photo of themselves. I don't have any other information. I just go on the photo, I tune into that person, I draw whatever shapes, colors, lines I feel are right for that person. I make this geometric shape, and then I translate that into kind of like a psychic reading or a soul reading, because I can just for me, it's the easiest way that I can tune into someone because I've created this piece of artwork. It kind of gives you really kind of like, I don't, for me, it's a deeper connection to that person than if I was just doing tarot cards or, whatever else. So it's a really, because every tiny little mark, every tiny little color represents something in that person's soul, their energy, their personality, their past life. There's a lot of information that I can pick up in these pictures. And so then I read the picture, translate it, and yeah, and then give it to them. And like I've done, I don't know, maybe over 200 of these now, and just the feedback is, I mean, I get shocked every time. Like they're just like, oh my God, you've put into words what I know about myself, but maybe wouldn't even admit to myself. Like you have seen my soul, and I can talk about their trauma. I can see how they view themselves, how other people view them, what they've been through, how they show up in the world. There's so much information that I pick up from these pictures, and it's like having your own personal sort of tarot card drawn, specifically for you. Or yeah, I don't know, but it just seems to work. And yeah, I just think that, and so they have this picture, but the picture is kind of like it pulls their energy back to, so if they've kind of feel a little bit lost, or life's got in the way, having this picture kind of like pulls them back to their original kind of blueprint, what they came to earth for. So it's also like, so they get this in-depth kind of understanding about themselves, but they also get this kind of energetic tool to help return them back to who, you know, who they were before trauma and everything else kind of got in the way.
Yeah, beautiful. And how did that develop then?
I don't know, really.
It was already there.
I really don't know. Like, I've always liked art, and well, I do. So, and I, because I was so sort of, I didn't like speaking when I was younger. I hated public speaking. I hated talking in groups. I literally like could not speak in front of other people. So someone was like, well, can you draw it instead of having to speak? Like, because I was doing like, you know, a psychic development course or something like that. And they were like, well, can you put it, you know, in on paper rather than trying to speak? And so then I was like, oh, actually, yeah, no, I can do that. And then I just developed it from there. So yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful how, like, you know, we think we're in control, right? Don't we, of like how things are going to play out in our lives? But that was meant to happen so you would channel this gift into the artwork and allow
Yeah.
that to come to fruition and build and things like that. Like, I never thought I'd ever be doing these kind of podcasts and sharing this. And so yeah, I believe there's something else that is really guiding us,
Yeah.
and we can try and control things, but if we just like follow those nudges, follow things, and just allow things to play out, like, things will just happen, and it'll be like miracles and magic that's just happening in our lives. And
Yeah.
it's faith and it's trust and it's building that intuition. And so how have you learned to really trust that intuition and that gut feeling, and start to yeah, just amplify that even more? Because the more you trust it and focus on it's like building a muscle, right?
So doing the pictures has really helped with that, because if you do like a normal psychic reading for someone, you'll still get input from them. You know, they might go, oh, yeah, you know, no, or, you know, you still got a kind of two-way conversation. But when I'm doing these pictures, I've got nothing to go on. Like, I've only got a photo, and I could be, so I know if I draw a circle as opposed to a square, it means something different. Or if I, you know, all these different shapes mean something different, and I know the energy is different. And but I've got nothing to go on, and sometimes I get, you know, halfway through a drawing, I'm like, what if I've gone on a completely wrong track, like, and the complete, you know, I've got a completely wrong energy, and it's like, well, maybe I have, but I've got no choice but to trust myself and continue. And so that process would go on time and time again, and and everything, even just like from the color of the ink to everything, it's like, oh, what if I'm chosen, you know, at the beginning I'd overthink it and be like, oh, is this person an orange or a green, or, you know, what if I get it wrong? And then over time I'm like, no, I'm just going to trust. And so doing these pictures really helped me to fine tune my intuition, and then obviously getting the feedback from the people. And I'm like, okay, so I trusted myself. I had nothing to go on, and it was 100% correct. And then that happens time and time again. So then that just really helped me to, you know, trust myself. And if I hadn't have disliked speaking, I wouldn't have learned that I had this skill, you know. So for years I was like, oh, why can't I speak in groups? Why am I so shy? Oh, I wish I could speak. Everyone else can. And, you know, I thought it was a negative thing, but actually that has given me this amazing gift. So, you know, it's weird how, you know, for until you kind of just let go of control and realize. And but the thing is, we're impatient as humans, you know, like I'm 50. It's taken me, you know, until at least my mid-40s till I kind of really trusted. And so that's a long time to doubt yourself, and a long time to like feel like, what am I doing? You know, so it can be frustrating because you don't know for a long time why you're a certain way, or why, you know, you think this is not a gift, like this is like a curse. And so it can take a long time. And again, it's just to have trust in all that time, if you can, that, you know, something will happen, you know, it will be for its benefit, even if you can't see it at the time.
Yeah, again, it's that trust, isn't it? Just to keep going. And I suppose where you've had no information about that person, because the more information you have, the more the mind's going to start to want to
Yeah.
control the outcome, right?
Yeah.
And I suppose even like you're channeling, really, because you're having to get the ego out of the way. So you're
Yeah.
channeling this information, um, because it's similar to me when I channel and I was learning how to channel, I had to get out of the way, like, you know, but the mind will come in and start going, what about this? Or I didn't say that, or whatever it is. And so, yeah, it really helps. But it's practice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Keep doing it, and doing what you love as well is obviously all being guided as well. So, yeah, beautiful. I love that. And
And
so,
I was just going to say, I think as well, but it really helps with like my birth doula clients, because lots of them, you know, it's their first baby. They don't know what's going to happen. And, you know, they don't know the path ahead of them. And, you know, they've heard obviously horror stories about how bad it's going to be and whatever. And so they've got to learn to trust themselves, and they've got to learn to trust their bodies that they can do it. So me going through that experience is I'm able to help them to trust themselves as well, and to not feel that anything's going wrong, because there are moments obviously in birth when you're like, oh my god, no, I don't want to do it anymore, I've made the wrong decision, I don't want a baby, like this is too much, I can't do it. And so going through those lessons yourself, you know, it just makes you be able to help other people and guide them, so it's
yeah,
beneficial in that way as well. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. It's again another level of like service to others, isn't it? You know,
Mm.
um, yeah, beautiful. I love that. And so one of the things I just want to say, like for those obviously go back to the end of life doula,
Yeah.
you know, if there are families right now that are, you know, that obviously know that family member or someone close to them, a loved one, is like at the end of their life, and they're really like, or there's somebody who's grieving, and really, really like, you know, suffering with grief right now, like what would you say to them?
I think where lots of people not continue to suffer, but it's because they think they need to do something a certain way, or they think grief should be like this, or they think they should be over the grief by now, or they think whatever, you know, but they think it should be different to how they're experiencing it. Or, you know, yeah, and that's for everything really. It's like, no, it's like we do things in our own unique way, you know, and it doesn't matter if you're doing it different to other people. It doesn't matter if you're taking longer or shorter or whatever, you know. It's just to trust your process is your process. This is the way you're doing it. And to, yeah, not like worry about what everyone else thinks you should be doing, or, and it's just to really embrace how you're doing things yourself, because, you know, obviously grief is awful, but it's a very unique process for people. Um, and I do think the people that struggle the most, yeah, are the ones who think it should be a certain way, or yeah, it should be over by now, or I should be doing it, or you know, they haven't done it the same as me, or you know, that kind of thing. Just comparing us to other people. And again with birth, you know, like, well, why did she do it like that? And it's just it's just everything is so unique, and you know, we are going to do things our way, and when we can feel empowered by the fact we're doing it our way, and the and to trust, and to know that there's a higher purpose for doing it our own unique way, that's I think when things lighten and people, yeah, get some relief.
Yeah, beautiful. It's having no expectation, right?
Yeah.
And when we, you know, when we compare, and again, trust, right? Trusting that the process is right and what's happening is happening. It's not meant to happen any other way, because it's right for them and their soul, and there is something higher guiding them. And when we compare, we're actually not trusting, because we're saying what we're where we're at is wrong, and
Yeah.
it shouldn't be happening the way it is. And so having that attachment and expectation of this is what it needs to look like, we need to let go of all of that, don't we? Because, and that's not just in, you know, grief, it's in all areas. Like
Yeah.
we fall into this
Yeah.
comparison. Like it's yeah, it's something that's really, really strong in society, like
Yeah.
comparing, and we're all on our own unique journey.
And it's
Yeah.
especially when it comes to like things that involve like medical, you know, institutions and stuff, which obviously birth and death does, and they want things to be done a certain way because it fits their policies, it fits their, you know, their structure of how their, you know, institution is set up. But and it's very difficult for people to go against that. if a doctor says, no, you can't take your loved one home, you know, and it's like, well, lots of people won't question the doctor, and I'm really about, yeah, you know, you can do it your way. The same with birth, you can birth your way. You don't have to do it how the hospital tells you. You don't have to do it how everyone else is doing it. You can do it completely unique, you know, to you. You don't have to, yeah, because it's just getting our power back, isn't it? And like knowing we can do it our way, even if the powers that be, even if big consultants and, you know, all these people in power tell us we're doing it wrong, if we trust ourselves and we know what's right for us, and that what they say doesn't matter. But that's kind of the big challenge when the medical, and you've, because they bring out, you know, the big guns. They bring out lots of consultants. They bring out lots of doctors to talk to you and tell you that you should do it a certain way. And it's hard to go against that. So having like a birth or death doula can really help, because we can help you get your needs met. You know, everyone knows what they want to happen, but they might not have enough kind of grit to be able to talk to these people in authority and say, no, I'm going to do it a different way, actually. So one of the, you know, our main roles as doulas is to be able to let people do things their own way and to like stand up to what is the norm, maybe.
Yeah, being really informed and is really great for a doula, to from a doula's perspective, informing their clients as well, and
Yeah,
you're not blindsided when you do go against the grain kind of thing, because
yeah,
yeah, that can definitely happen. And you know, your intuition could be saying all of these things like, no, I want to have a birth at home, or I want to take my loved one home, and then the pressure of society and what the expectations are because of like rules and regulations,
yeah,
it can overpower you very easily. You could have
yeah,
all of the will in the world and really strong, but it can very much turn because the pressure, and they use, you know, and they're doing a job, and I get it, and it is, you know, they've got the rules and regulations, but it is about really listening to your intuition and giving, and you know, knowing that you can make a choice that's right for you. You don't necessarily need to
yeah,
follow their choices.
yeah,
And yeah, birth and death doula can definitely help support that,
yeah,
with navigating those challenging conversations, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
And again, it's like, you know, with birth and death, it's like if people have the conversations, if they just share their wishes, then things can happen. But if people are afraid to have those conversations, especially around death, you know, they're afraid to say what they really want, or people have different views or opinions, you know, within the family of what should happen, things don't normally happen because people haven't had the conversation. So part of my role is just to let people have those difficult conversations, and I obviously I don't find them difficult, so I can be quite not blunt, but I can just, you know, I'm straightforward, I'm practical. I'll be
yeah.
like, okay, so what do you want to do with the body straight after? Do you want this? And you know, and I it's not that I'm unemotional, but I'm just very kind of practical, and people need that, because otherwise they don't consider what they actually really want, and they just, yeah, do what they're told to do, and it might not be what they want, so then they feel unfulfilled, and then it's
Mm,
so, yeah, I think having all the experiences I've had, that and being able to like stand up for myself and trust myself is really beneficial now, because I can help other people to do that, and to, yeah, stand up to authority, and to just let people do things their own way. You know, people know what they really want, and,
mm,
you know,
mm,
and just having those conversations, planning, you know, just being open about their needs.
mm,
It just
mm.
makes life a lot easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you've kind of summed it up really well. It's like, why do we need a death and birth doula? I think that kind of like sums it up. And there's probably more things if you want to, if you've got anything else to say. But yeah, I think that does sum it up really, and just supporting, you know, helping to, you know, meet their needs, like you were saying, on both
Yeah,
sides, you know.
yeah.
And so I've loved this conversation. It's been great. Thank you so much for coming on. And
You're
if
welcome.
people want to work with you, birth or end of life, or even get a reading, a soul signature artwork, I mean, that sounds amazing. How can people connect with you or reach out?
So my website's just brightondoula.com, and on my Instagram I'm gonna have to remember because I just changed the
I
names.
can link it I can link it in the description.
Yeah, I think it's Brighton_Doula. But yeah, it's on there.
Yeah.
And there's loads of, on the Instagram, there's loads of testimonials of people who've had the soul signature reading and their reply. Because people quite often they get like an emotional, they see the picture and they get like an emotional reaction. They like start crying and they're like, I don't know why I'm crying, but like I feel that this is me. And it's a really kind of deep experience. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah, it's they're probably feeling the energy, aren't they? It's like their soul essence, right?
Yeah,
In physical, even
yeah.
though the body is there, it's more. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
I know, being able to like come face to face with your soul, like the pureness of it, because obviously as we get older, we get jaded by life, and you know we have pain and suffering, and we can become a little bit like, I don't know, just yeah, jaded, I think. But like when you see a picture of your soul, how it's meant to be, or how it was before any pain or trauma, it's a very, yeah, profound experience for people. Yeah, no, I think it's amazing.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, I love it. So please reach out and get a painting, a soul signature from Sarah. It would be very transformational, I'm sure. Great. This has actually been amazing. And thanks for coming on again, Sarah. And thanks everybody for watching. I hope you're taking something away from this conversation. I've really thoroughly enjoyed it. Please do like, subscribe, and comment, and share with anybody you think will yeah, benefit from this conversation today. And yes, thanks everybody for being here. Have a blessed day.